So my name's Jordan. I've been with the co-op, I guess, for about 6 months. I just heard of it super randomly through a friend that I was giving a ride out to the country with. They're like, hey, there's this really cool brewing co-op that just started on campus, and we want to reopen the campus bar and serve all of Concordia with local beer and stuff. And I thought it was a super cool idea. I've been home brewing for a while, so I was into that kind of stuff. And so I came to the meetings and slowly got more and more involved. The co-op's just gone through a really big transition where the people that founded it have since kind of up and gone, and so we're kind of redirecting things and kind of rethinking what we're going to do. So it's been really cool. It's been a pretty happening time for the past few months.
Your workshops and the frequency and what you guys intend to do with this?
So right now we're having monthly workshops. Right now, so we're brewing in the kitchen at Burritoville on Sundays, just because Sundays they're closed, and so it's the one day that we can actually come in and brew. And so far we've had enough interest basically to have a monthly workshop. If we were to do much more than that for the time being with the amount of members we have, we would wind up with way too much beer, and we wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So basically for now we're doing monthly workshops. This is the first one where we've got lots of participation from people outside of our sort of main member base. So that's been really cool. And yeah, the goal is just to spread the home brew culture and the sort of brew culture, local beer, and all these really cool ideas that a lot of us are really into to a bit broader of an audience. And Concordia's got already such a supportive, they're so supportive of sustainability initiatives and local food initiatives and stuff like that, and there's actually funding to do something like this. So yeah, we're pretty lucky to be able to get funding so we can actually put on these workshops and teach people. We basically take people through the entire steps of the homebrew process. So we're really lucky that we can do that.
Do you mind walking us through these steps?
Sure.
If possible?
So we start, well, it all revolves around the stove. So you start heating water, and the goal of brewing is that you want to take the sugar that's in your grain, or the sugar that's in your grain, and get it into a form that can be fermented and made beer out of. So you start by heating up water and then adding your grain to that at a very specific, at a specific-ish temperature, and then you let it sit for a while. It steeps. Enzymes that are already in there work to break down the starch into sugar, and that's sort of the whole goal of that process, is you want to take all your starches and turn it into sugar so that the yeast can finally ferment it and turn it into beer. So you steep it for a while. Afterwards, you take your grain, either if you brew in a bag, like you do with our brew kits with a smaller batch, or if you brew a larger batch, you have other ways, but you remove the grain from the water, and then you're left with really, really sweet barley juice, almost, if you will. And then that stuff you'll put back on the stove, you'll boil it for an hour, and throughout that hour you'll add hops at different times. You add hops at first to make it more bitter, and then closer to the end you add final additions of flavoring hops and things like that. And then you've got a big pot of basically, it's called wort, which is the sort of concentrated barley liquid with your hops and stuff. You cool it down, you add your yeast, you put it into a nice sterilized container, and you let it ferment for, at first, about a week. After that, you transfer it to another container, let it ferment for another couple weeks, and then you're ready to bottle or put it into a keg or whatever and enjoy.
Can you tell us a little bit about the beer that we're making today and maybe some of the qualities of it?
So today we're brewing a wheat ale. Most beers dominantly barley. Most beers use only barley, but you can get sugars out of any grain and make a beer out of it if you want to. And different grains will give different flavors, different textures, everything. So we've got pretty much, 60% of our grain bill for today is barley, but 40%, which is a whole lot, is wheat. So we're brewing a wheat ale. It's a nice spring beer. Wheat ales traditionally are brewed with using some coriander seeds and some orange peel, or whole orange, and so it adds some really nice sort of floral flavors. And we thought it'd be a really good beer for a hot spring day like today. So that's that. We've had everybody helping out. Everybody, all the members that have come through or people participating in the workshop, we're helping grind the grain, mashing into the water, doing all the processes. Yeah, that's that.
Actually, you were describing to me some overall goals of the beer co-op. Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, so we have our goals are kind of, I guess, as an overall mission to sort of bring the homebrew culture and bring sort of the real beer culture to Concordia. And that's either home brewing, it can be drinking local beer, supporting local grain, local hops, a lot of these issues to grow that whole culture and foster it at Concordia. And so that's sort of the overall mission. The way we're doing that, so for now, while we're sort of in a period of transition, we don't have a microbrewery set up yet. We're running these workshops. So we are doing that by promoting the homebrew culture, teaching people things that they can do at home. All of us that are sort of more in charge of the running the co-op, we started as homebrewers. That's how pretty much everybody gets their start with the beer culture. And so that's a main part, is we want to bring that culture and teach people how to do that. A lot of time you're going off the internet, out of books, and it's sort of disconnected from the local environment. Here it's really cool. You come to our brew workshop, you're with people from university, from the local community, you're brewing beer. We use all local grain, and so we're just teaching people brewing in a very sort of local focused environment. In the future, right now we're looking for space. We're hoping even to open the 3rd floor of Burritouville as our micro or nano brewery in the next year or so, and that would be sort of the next phase of our project. Then we would brew much larger batches than we're brewing today. This is just homebrew size that we're doing. We would brew about 200 liter at a time batches, and eventually serve our beer both here at the Burritouville Co-op, if that pans out, which it hopefully will. And eventually there's talk of reopening Reggie's, and we would like to supply Reggie's with our beer. We'd also like to get a distribution permit so that we could serve our beer at campus events, so like faculty events and conferences and that kind of stuff. For right now, they have to get beer from Molson or Labatt, or if they have funding, then they'll get beer from a local microbrewery maybe. But it would be really cool to be able to serve student cooperative beer for Concordia University events, sort of part of the vision. So that's pretty much it. It's all sort of slowly coming into place, but those are the dreams that we've got right now.
You kind of touched on this, but I'm wondering like what kind of value this Brasseurs Illuminés brings to the Concordia community.
I think it brings so much value to it. I mean, first of all, it lets students take ownership of their university, at least in this sense with beer. So say we're Reggie's to reopen and serve Brasseurs Illuminés beer, or even this Burritouville restaurant, if it goes through and becomes a student-run cooperative and serves Brasseurs Illuminés beer, everything kind of comes full circle, because then members from the student body can be a part of the co-op. They can help brew the beer, and then they'll be eating at the restaurant with their friends, and they will drink the beer that they help brew, and they'll see that whole process from brewing to distribution to the whole thing. So I think it's really, really neat in that sense that students will regain sort of ownership in a sense of this part of student life. And I mean, beer is a very large part of student life depending on where you're at. But I mean, yeah, so I think that's really important. Concordia also has there's a lot of energy. People have a lot of energy for sustainable food initiatives, for all these things. There's so many really, really cool initiatives going on at Concordia that this is another way of expanding that. Beer is traditionally, such a hyper-regulated, such a like almost taboo subject. You can only buy your beer from a registered brewery, and of course, we would not do things on the table. It's going to be unregistered, but there is a certain sort of mythicalness to beer, and it's really cool that we can help take that away. If people see that brewing is really just another way of cooking, that's a really important lesson, and I think that fits in really well with a lot of the other stuff that's going on at Concordia about people sort of empowering people to have more control over what they eat and their own economic systems and all these kinds of things.